Blackity black, black, and black. That's that's what's going on over here. I'm actually kind of embarrassed to say I only used it for 2 months, maybe. That's
Oh,
generous. I know.
wow.
The full testimony. Can we have church for a moment? Is
Just for a second, actually. I got a
okay.
keyboard in the other room. If you really want to take it there, we can.
All right.
It's a lot to be excited about. I'm excited for you. I'm
Thank
excited to see
you.
what's next. And you've done great work. It's been all over social media, YouTube, Instagram. Like we've seen it, and everybody wants to see the next step. Okay, my name is Malcolm Johnson. I'm a Emmy-nominated producer at Channel 7 WABC in New York City, and I'm here with I'm here with the amazing Randi Richardson, and she has been hiding so much from the public about her next steps and everything that she's been plotting for the future. And today we've gathered because she's going to let everybody in on exactly what she's got going on. Randi, how you doing?
I'm good. I have been hiding. I have been planning. Any good
Plotting,
relaunch has those
scheming.
qualities.
There it is. Scheming and plotting, and here's your big reveal for exactly what you got going on. And look, we're honored. I'm honored to be having this conversation with you. I'm glad that we got to connect, and I'm excited that I feel like I'm hearing about it first. It's been cooking up in your head. But before we get started, let's just talk about like where you are right now in your journalism journey. So if somebody asks, hey Randi, what do you do? What's your answer?
Yes. First, thank you, Malcolm, for agreeing to this interview. We've seen each other at NABJ. I remember I never had someone open a revolving door for me, but I was walking through and you were on the other side. And just when I went to push it, you were like pulling it across. So I had no work to do. So thank you for that. You set the bar, brother.
The little things.
It's the little things. I remember that.
Yeah.
So right now in my career, I have 4 years of experience. I had been at NBC News for a year and then moved over to the Today.com team, which is the digital arm of the Today Show broadcast, where I was for the last 3 years. And my last day was Labor Day, which is super exciting for me because I am in a career reset, relaunch, pivot where I now have this opportunity to build my brand, to build my platform. We'll talk a lot about Reporter with Randi Richardson and all the things connected to that. And this is a time where I feel like everything that I've been keeping close to my heart, that I've been planning, scheming, plotting, to use your words, I can now share with everyone. And it's crazy because this has been underground for a while. So many seeds planted, watering those seeds. And now I get to like break through the surface and sprout up. So I'm excited. I'm nervous. It's funny. I'm a reporter, so I ask people questions, and it's different being the one having to answer now. So
Yeah.
I'm glad it's you asking the questions. That makes it a little easier. But
All
I'm
softballs.
still.
It'll be fun and easy. It'll be good.
I keep thinking I'm hearing a drum roll, but like I think it's just my heart beating fast.
But look, it's a lot to be excited about. I'm excited for you. I'm
Thank
excited to see
you.
what's next. And you've done great work. It's been all over social media, YouTube, Instagram. Like we've seen it, and everybody wants to see the next step. So I mean, that's why we're here, and it's really, really great, actually.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm hoping to keep the people happy, to keep making them proud.
So, Randi, you spent a lot of time at NBC. You spent a lot of time at Today, and you're stepping away with that. A little bit off camera, you said, this new part of your journey is based on faith and stepping out into you and your own brand. Really quickly, explain to me what Randi's brand is for somebody who's new to Randi Richardson.
Well, I'm glad you asked that. I have Reporter with Randi Richardson, unbiased news, unfiltered culture, unshaken community, and trusted reporting. And it is a love letter really to myself and to the community that I grew up in. I'm from a predominantly Black city. I went to a predominantly Black Joe Schmo public high school. And I didn't always see a lot of our stories told on the news. I didn't see a lot of our joys and justice and problems at any point centering the people who were impacted. And it made me not only want to become a reporter, but want to intentionally frame stories so that a person in Idaho could read this story about another person in Florida and they can relate to it because these are human experiences, right? And so the way I do that is through original reporting. I'll interview people. You'll see me out in the streets interviewing community members. You'll see me interviewing elected officials, actors, like whoever it is. There's value in sitting down and asking the question. Most of the time, everyone's thinking it anyway. And as a reporter, I have the privilege of being able to get some time with them and ask that question. And you talked about how this was a big faith step for me, which is completely true. And the full testimony, can we have church for a moment? Is
Just for a second, actually. I got a
okay.
keyboard in the other room. If you really want to take it there, we can.
All right, if we can have church for a moment, I'll say the full testimony is I remember when I was in kindergarten, and the kindergarten classroom always has lots of things going on, right? And every day after school, I would go home and my mom would ask me, "Oh, how was school today?" And I itemized every event, every kid who cried, every crayon that broke, and prided myself in telling her all of the details of the day.
Yeah.
And I remember telling her, "Oh, yeah, and then Miss Gibbons said, oh, and then so and so cried and blah, blah, blah." There was a kid in my kindergarten class who cried every day, like no cap. So I now realize that reporting the facts, attributing, fact finding are all pillars of journalism that at that young age I was just naturally doing. So some of it was natural interest that I kind of grew into. And I would say by 12, I knew I wanted to be a reporter.
Wow.
And then when I was a freshman in high school, my parents sent me to this journalism camp in Washington, D.C. It was a week long where we heard from leading experts, we simulated real life situations. And I came back so fired up about journalism and reporting and being an on-air national reporter that my parents put a studio in our basement. Literally, like put track lights on the ceiling, had a desk and a chair and all of that. And I'm actually kind of embarrassed to say I only used it for 2 months, maybe. That's generous. I know. Which is tragic because they had went out of their way to put this up for me. So the show at the time was called The Diz Dish. My family nickname is Randizzle. So it was a play on that. And I know it's obnoxious, but
it's family. What do you expect? It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, any family nickname just is not going to be something that's super, unembarrassing. But no, it's cute. I like it. So at any rate, I used it for a couple of months and then just stopped because teenagers, and I think I was just scared of putting myself out there. Like I wanted to be a high profile reporter to strangers, but still like relatively unknown to my inner circle, if that makes sense. And that was my logic at the time anyway, like known to everyone else, but my people don't know that I'm this big high profile reporter. So anyway, fast forward to a couple of years ago, and like God still had this vision on my heart to like start my own show, to build my own brand, to have my own platform. And I finally listened again in 2022 when I launched the first version of Reported with Randi Richardson. So this was a 2-minute daily show on Instagram where it was just like a headline recap, right? The 3 biggest news stories of the day in 2 minutes, and then you go on to your next thing. And I remember specifically when I decided to actually do it, there's a Bible passage that was just heavy on my heart. I feel like the Spirit was really speaking to me through it. And that's 2 Kings 4, 1-7. And in this passage, we see a widow approach the prophet Elisha for help because now that her husband is dead, the creditors are now asking her to pay the debt and threatening to take her 2 sons into slavery. So this is a dire situation. She needs some help. And Elisha tells her, after some minimal back and forth, go borrow jars from all of your neighbors. And you said you had a little bit of oil. So pour that oil into the jars that you get. And so she does it. And for every jar that she presented, there's enough oil to fill the bottle. And the only reason it stopped flowing is because she ran out of bottles. And that just feels so similar to how I felt in 2022. It's so similar to how I feel now in creating a space that God can fill so long as there's big enough space to hold it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I will make the room, whatever it is, I'll make the room if that's the only prereq, right? So this new version of Reporter Randi Richardson is me putting out empty bottles. It's me creating the room, and I just believe that the oil will flow. All right,
Hallelujah.
church is over now.
Hallelujah. You gave us a text. Yeah, you really took us through, actually. I appreciate that.
Well, I am a PK, so it's in me a little bit.
I am too, a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But it just ain't about me. We're not talking about me. But anyway, but I guess I know another one when I see another one. I see how that whole thing goes.
No, I definitely was going to ask, how was your PK experience?
It was I played keyboard in church. I did the whole minister of music thing from when I was 10 until when I graduated high school, through college, and then even when I was in Cincinnati, I was playing for another church then. I didn't stop playing until maybe about 3 years ago when I stopped playing for churches exclusively.
Wow, you play an instrument and a PK. Who's hiding stuff now? I didn't know that.
But anyways, no, this is like, all right, back to Reported with Randi. All right, let's get into that, okay?
Okay, we'll circle back later.
We talked about, let's call it season 1, right? How many different versions or seasons, rebrands, remakes, sequels, reboots have we seen of this show?
There has been several reboots. So the first would be the headline roundup, just the 2 minutes, as I had mentioned earlier. The second would be sort of when I started doing original interviews. So there would be the Montgomery Brawl or another big event, and I would interview a legal expert, like explain why this is or is not a hate crime, and then I would post that original interview. Or it would be a story that I wrote, and I would make like a video version of that and post it. And so I would say this is the third reboot, and it's different because it's primarily going to live on YouTube, and it's going to be longer shows. It's going to be more content. And instead of focusing on, several different things in one video, it's just going to be one well thought out, well researched, well reported idea, phenomenon where I can talk to people and ask them about it. I can present data. I'll have my graphics. I've actually been working on my graphics package. So it is.
That's not a graphics package. Oh, wow.
Yes.
We're excited.
Listen, your girl is out here making it professional looking, right? And the goal is that this rebooted version is a culmination of the other two, which would be a nice way to pay homage, but also its own flavor, because it will be primarily on YouTube. And then I'll, of course, like post social cut downs on Instagram and things like that. But I'm excited because apparently the YouTube audience is very active, and I've kind of been overlooking them until now. So I'm interested to play around with what works, what doesn't work, staying true to myself while still kind of threading that needle of the algorithm.
Yeah. Look, from what I know of you, and even from what you've shared just in this interview, I feel like the staying true to yourself won't be very difficult, because it's not like you're pretending to be anybody. Like, this is who you are, literally from when you were a child to who you are now as an adult, as a professional. So staying true to yourself should be like, it's something that will never ever leave you, because it is who you are. So that's why I'm really, really excited for this.
Amen. Who's preaching now?
I do want to say, so like, let's looking back to season 1 of Reported with Randi Richardson. You said you were doing a daily 2-minute program, top stories of the day type situations. CNN does an email every day, the CNN 5 things, where they're doing something like that. And then like in other versions of Reported, there are like other content, whatever you want to call them, content creators who are doing similar versions. So just tell me, and you said you're already seeing traction on YouTube, and you got the YouTube audience that's excited, just as excited as me, and they're ready to jump back into it for all this new content. Tell me what's really separating Reported with Randi Richardson from the rest of the field. Like, how are you separating from the pack?
Yes. I think with me, I'm not into gimmicks. I'm not into, let's just do this because it'll go viral. if it's something I'm posting, it's something that I actually care about. And it's different because I'm a one-woman band. Like, I'm writing scripts, I'm doing the editing, I'm making the graphics, I'm the booking producer trying to get people. And with big organizations like CNN or NBC, they have a lot of support built in so they can put together a great production, and that's great. For me, I have to be a little bit more selective because I am a one-woman band. I only have so much bandwidth. So the projects I choose are going to be not only more selective, but well done, because my capacity is less than that, and I want to be able to produce a great product. So definitely working within my means. And because of that, I think my clips would just be more power packed. Because if I can only do one video a week, best believe it's going to be everything you need to know about that particular thing. So the quality over quantity for sure. But I think the conversation about influencers and where do reporters kind of fit into that is a really interesting one you raise, because even at the DNC, content creators and influencers were like 200 of the attendees, and there were some complaints that they had more access than the press who were there to cover the event. So my goal is that this digital show is in a place that kind of is both of those, right? And I'll then be invited to those opportunities and maybe get the access of the content creators, but still asking the questions that the press would.
Okay. So funny that you mentioned that, because it goes right into my next question. Why is it that your audience and beyond needs Randi Richardson in those rooms, asking those questions to those people?
I love that question. So I think everything comes down to perspective. As journalists, we have our lived experience, we have our professional experience, we have the videos that we watch, the TV shows that we watch. And when you're in the room with, I don't know, the Attorney General, or in the room with Angela Bassett, it's so easy to admire their career and ask softball questions as opposed to what everybody is thinking. Like, why did XYZ happen last week, or whatever the case may be. And I think I have never shied away from asking a question. My mother will tell you I am not short on personality or nerve. That's like her favorite line. And I think when the question comes from me, it lands a little bit differently. Even with a difficult conversation, like, it's still a way to ask it with some tact and with some compassion. I'm not interested in ambushing people. I'm not interested in asking trick questions. And I think because my intentions are pure and genuine, I'm not interested in just going viral or famous just because, right? Again, I'm not into the gimmicks of it all. I really just love journalism. I love reporting. I love being able to interview people. I love that I can tell a story and someone across the country was impacted. And they'll write to me. They'll send me emails like, thank you so much for telling this story. And for me, the only way to keep producing that type of high quality content is to be in the room where it happens. No Hamilton reference, although I do love that play.
I was gonna let it slide. I was gonna let it slide. Maybe it was a coincidence. Yeah, I was gonna let it slide. Okay, I'm
No,
sorry.
it surprisingly comes up a lot, even when I'm not trying to make the reference. But yes, in the room where it happens. So
Okay. Um, so there was something that you mentioned earlier, and admittedly, I'm gonna steal it, and I'm gonna have it be the title of a project someday.
oh.
You mentioned telling our stories, joy and justice, right?
Mhm.
That was gorgeous, and I'm stealing it. I mean, I'll credit you, but joy and justice, I'm slapping that on something.
No, you could just use it. One of my professors in college, she signed her emails Joy and Justice and then her
Hmm.
name. So it's stolen. You can use it. You don't even have to credit me. Like, go ahead, brother. And send the project when it's done. I want to watch it.
How do you balance that in storytelling, though? Especially when you're talking about communities that are disenfranchised, communities that are impoverished, communities that are violence stricken. How do you balance those two things in telling the totality of a story?
Yes. So I've learned that the story itself will not always have joy. Sometimes it really will just be about justice. And sometimes it's the opposite. It will have everything to do with joy and not a lot of justice involved, which thank goodness, because we all need a break from fighting the good fight.
Yeah.
And I recently did a story, this was pegged to the Olympics, about the history of Black people in swimming in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very complicated, fraught history, a lot of justice involved in that. but I was able to kind of splice in the moments of joy. So, for example, the stats show that a good portion of Black adults and Black children have little to no swimming ability or don't know how to swim at all. So, rather than just letting that stat sit there, I went to a public pool and filmed myself swimming just to insert some joy into that story. Like, yes, the stats say this, but there's the other side of the stats, right? The Black people who can swim. And for me, it's important to highlight both. And then the other thing is when telling stories of justice, I'm always approaching it from a solution oriented approach. So it should never just be the problem and then end of story. It's always the problem and then what are people doing about it? What initiatives are in place? Is there legislation? What are the community activists doing? And I learned from that story that there's a big push to get more Black people to sign up for Learn to Swim programs, which oftentimes offer free swimming lessons or YMCA memberships or anywhere where they can just like go and be in the water. So I think the line of joy and justice sometimes is story to story, but sometimes it can also be within the same story so long as it connects back to the overall thesis. So using the same example, if I'm talking about Black people in swimming, I can say like, yes, white people used to drain the pools so that Black people couldn't swim. Yes, there was a segregation portion of it where, you know, one day a week they would negotiate to be able to swim in this white only pool. And also the one day a week did happen. So even in all of that injustice, they still were able to find joy. And I think there's pockets of that in every story, or at least I go out of my way to find them because too much of the heavy stuff is too heavy. Too much of the light stuff feels frivolous. Yeah. And I'm sure you can relate to this, like another story about a dog. Okay.
Yeah.
I just get
How
tired
many
of
dog
it.
stories can we tell? We're tired.
Yeah, another story about the fair.
Right.
Okay, great.
Another
So
bad
just for my own, give me something new, I do look to cover the full spectrum.
Mm-hmm. So it's funny, and really quickly, I hope that this motivates you to work like that. Just like an example like that, I was somebody who heard the statistic about Black people not being able to swim, and once Black adults specifically not being able to swim. And once upon a time, I was like, you know what? I'm tired of being one of those. So I had to go get adult swimming lessons at 25 because I was like, I'm not gonna be a statistic. I guess running
Yay!
away from being statistics, but I guess just I said that to say like you never know like what story you're gonna tell that impacts somebody. Like
Yes.
it could be your next one, and if it changes one life or if it changes one opinion, then it makes a difference. It goes a long way.
Yes. Oh, I'm so happy that you learned how to swim as an adult. So what
Yeah,
was it for you growing up? Was it more so not having access to a pool or just hearing, oh, Black people don't swim, so you just never thought to try?
I just everyone around me when we go to the pool, you go and splash around and crawl and do the thing where like you squat in 4 feet and just kind of walk around. But like,
Yes.
nobody was swimming out in like open
Mm.
water swimming. I knew like a few people who could swim, but most people just couldn't.
It's
So
more so like playing chicken, playing games.
yeah, but it wasn't
That's real.
swimming. So I don't. I spent time at the pool. There were a lot of Black people. I grew up in Black neighborhoods and
Yeah.
black, and there were pools, and they would be full of people, but nobody was swimming. So I think it's interesting because I think
Mm.
it's not an access thing, is it?
Well, I think what you're getting at is it's not an access because they're in the pool, right? But it's
Yeah,
more so what are you doing while in the pool?
yeah,
And I think that's a part of the story that I did not touch on. I actually had never considered that. So the games are common, especially if you in 4 foot, 5 foot water. Most,
yeah.
people can stand up in that. Even kids are about that height now. So the actual intention of learning swimming became even more important as you became an adult. I hadn't thought about that.
I
I guess
we have.
socialization.
I was about to say if we're telling the story, I'd say how many schools have swim teams, access to Olympic-sized swimming pools. See, that's the thing. We had like little neighborhood pools, but they weren't like
Yeah,
the size of pools that you could lap swim. And
yeah.
my high school had a swim team, but we didn't have a pool at the school to like we didn't have a swim class.
Okay.
Now that's interesting. Like, what's the percentage of like black schools that have actual pools at the schools so that black people can learn to swim? You would think
Yeah.
that, huh?
But
Maybe
I
it's,
think what you're saying is when you went to the pool, people were just playing games. So like you just played games, and
yeah,
had you went and people were actually swimming, like you would have swam. So some
right.
of it is just what you see is what you end up doing. And I do think that's part of socialization and just like how the interactions that we take in
Mhm.
impact what we end up doing. So I was an Africana studies major, so I can go all day about this type of stuff.
Well, I was about to say because I think that just goes to show like schools that have like crew teams or all those other, like I know my school had, football, basketball, track, and those type of things we didn't have.
Yeah.
Anyways, getting
Yeah, same. We didn't
off,
have crew either, so I know what you
yeah,
mean.
getting off topic just a touch.
I
I mean,
admire your commitment to staying on topic.
it's interesting. All right, cool. So like another question, mind you, we're gonna call this season 4, right? We're gonna call this season
Season
4.
3,
This is
yes.
season 3. Okay, this is season 3. You've got fans that have been following since season 1, but I just
Yes.
want you to think back to like, its inception, all the way back to season 1, episode 1, from the pilot up until today, right? What is one story you wish you could retell again with how you've advanced as a journalist?
Mm. Yes, this is a pointed question because earlier this week I posted some clips of me looking back at my archives of
Mm-hmm.
my most popular videos
Mm-hmm.
and like basically telling everything that happened before and after the camera started rolling. And it was almost cringy to watch my earlier videos because they were so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like just my delivery, the script, the graphics. I'm like, wow, I'm glad I put it out there. As they say, done is better than perfect. And I was really able to track my progress when I saw the more recent ones. Like, wow, I really do this.
Yeah.
Okay. The growth was just great. And to see that professional development just in the span of recording that 45-minute video
Mm-hmm.
really warmed my heart. I think knowing what I know now and the skills that I have now, the story I would want to redo is one about states and universities limiting diversity and what the other side is calling DEI,
Mm-hmm.
smoke screens, whatever. And it originally came with just like me with a green screen behind me with articles behind me, and I wish I had one had a bit of a better delivery.
Mm-hmm.
Two, had packaged it in a way that was more total. It was just, I think, focused on four, which was a pattern at the time, but there were others that I could have included.
Mm-hmm.
um and looking back, I just feel like the packaging and the storyline was a little incomplete.
Mm-hmm.
But nevertheless, that video got like 15,000 views, and which I was not expecting. And it was a real wake up call because it taught me that the people my target audience is watching, but also people who I may not be targeting are watching.
Yeah.
So target audience, like the
Yeah.
Black community, 18 to 46, 18 to 50, and whoever else may be connected to them, right?
Yeah.
And I realized after reading some very nasty comments that
Uh-oh.
as much as that core group may be watching, so is somebody in Nebraska, Idaho, and people who may have different views. So I'm really grateful for that lesson because now I'm like bulletproof to now that's a very bad phrase right now. Now I'm insulated.
Okay.
Sorry. Now I'm like inoculated, insulated to, the nasty comments, which I think anytime that you're in this world of publishing articles, publishing videos, that kind of comes with the territory. And now I know to just shrug it off. Or I have a rule that if there's a comment that makes me upset, I give it at least 24 hours before I respond. Like whatever it is, if it pushes a button, like I just wait it out because I don't want to respond out of anger. I want to respond out of compassion, which I think is part of the job too. You coming with the questions. That was a good one. I'm
So,
impressed.
sorry, so let's get into the comments from these people that you're dealing with. Where do you think that's coming from? And is any of it constructive criticism, or are we just dealing with social media trolls here?
Actually, some of it was constructive criticism. This was from in a different example from what I just shared. I don't even remember what the story was, but the guy commented, your delivery made it sound like we shouldn't be mad. And this is like a very frustrating situation, and your tone just kind of nullified that. And I was like, you know what? I'm sorry that I came across that way. That was not my intention. And at the time, I was still learning tone, delivery. What do you put an accent on? What do you inflect when reading a script? And that was really valuable feedback. I really did use that to get better. On the other hand, some of the comments are not constructive at all. So I tell a lot of stories about young Black people, middle class Black people, just blackity black, black, black. That's that's what's going on over here. And there are some trolls who, no matter what I say, how I deliver it, what I post, how I frame it, whatever, it's going to be a problem for them. It's going
Mhm.
to be, oh, you're making this up. Stop living in the past. Just a real effort to deny what is clearly documented with
Yeah.
research and reporting and with the historical record. And those are the ones who have to take the 24-hour pause. And I know there's been a lot about mental health in journalists. And for me, I have found that to be very effective.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I find that a lot of people often deny someone else's reality because it's not their reality and they can't relate.
Yeah.
But it
Oh,
doesn't
T,
mean
that's good.
but it doesn't mean that, their reality doesn't exist. It just they can't relate to it. Like I've seen that in my own newsroom. I work in a local newsroom in New York City. There are
That's the number one market.
the number one station, the number one market in the country, yes. There are some people um who have only been in New York City. And if you're from New York and you work in New York and you worked your way up in New York, I don't think you would have the best idea of what's going on in
Yeah.
Seattle. And
Yeah.
quite frankly, I don't think you have, like, because there's still a lot of people that I work with are confused about why anybody would vote for Trump at all. And it's kind of like if you were to go to Ohio for 48 hours
Yes.
and
Rural Ohio.
just exist for a little bit, you would never have to. And I say Ohio, if you go an hour, 2 hours out of New York City, and depending on the direction, you can find it.
Right.
Because when I lived in Philly, if you get past like the Philly, South Jersey area and go into Pennsylvania, it's a totally different place. So
Yeah.
I think that's why perspective is important. Your
Mm.
perspective is important. And that's why, like, you being the mouthpiece of telling these stories, I just want you to never lose sight of what that value is because we need
Thank
it. It's
you.
really good.
And to the point of traveling, I'm a big believer that you have to live somewhere else other than your hometown to
Yeah.
really gain life experience. So I'm from Michigan, then I lived in Rhode Island for 4 years for college. Then I moved to New York, where I've been for the last 4 years. And then
Mm.
even during that, I have been to, not to name drop my passport stamps, but to Spain, to Morocco, London, Paris, just and most of that was just for fun. That wasn't even professional travel, but I think it gave me such a better just frame of reference for what is my standard of living and
Yeah.
what other people consider theirs. And knowing my positionality in the world has been so helpful in my professional career. And this comes up big when journalists present something as new, like the New York Times got in trouble for this. Like, we newly discovered that Haiti is paying reparations to France. And historians were like, this has been going on for decades.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So, new to who, right? And why are we framing it that way? And even more recently, I think the same outlet claimed that Travis Kelce invented the fade. He did what?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that story came out during Black History Month. So,
Yeah.
again, like, the traveling you mentioned, going to Ohio or going to upstate New York, I
Mhm.
think that's critical to just have an idea of what's going on. and also to get out of the bubble of our inner circle that may think the same thing or say the same thing, which is like a really great benefit of having a reporter, hi, who's willing to like go out and ask people so that you can just play the video on your TV and I'm going and doing the legwork and pounding the pavement to like get those answers in that perspective.
Yeah. What's been through 3 seasons of reporting with Randi Richardson? What's been your favorite interview thus far?
I'm cracking up at the seasons. That actually is really good. I think I'm gonna hold on to that. I'm gonna carry that over. My favorite so far, probably 2 interviews I did with Kelly Barber. So she is a lawyer in the Midwest. No, I think she's in South Carolina. I have to double check. But around this time last year, Biden had just canceled $66 billion in student loan debt over the course of several years through different initiatives. Yeah. And then the Supreme Court struck down his signature plan to cancel up to $20,000 for eligible borrowers. And I didn't understand how one avenue was deemed legal, constitutional, perfectly fine, and then this other one was shot down. So she had been my follower. We had already been, replying to each other's stories, and I saw that she was a lawyer. And I said, hey, can you explain the legal rationale for this to me? And so she's like, yeah, of course. So I interviewed her. She had been looking for on-air opportunities anyway, so it was a win-win situation. And I think I'm so proud of that because she had already been following my show. She had already been familiar with me. And that was just such a great way to like include my followers in what I'm doing. I never want this to be one-sided, like I'm just talking at them. So I plan to like find more of them who are expert interviews on a wide variety of things and having them on the show. I plan to have them submit video questions or like just video responses to what's going on because I really do want it to be interactive. I want it to feel 360. And I want to be clear, like this is not a headline roundup. This is not just come here to catch up on the news cycle. It's very much me being specific and intentional about what I want to cover. How am I going to frame it? Who am I going to speak to? And I think that the Kelly interview just kind of checks all of those boxes. It was a banner, as the kids say. It was a banner interview.
Okay, couple more questions, and then I'm done, I think.
Okay, you're good. You got some good stuff, Malcolm.
Good. All right. So who's somebody that so originally I went back and forth about the 2 ways, and I'm giving you the easier question. The original question was 5 people that you would like to interview. One being a white man, one being a white woman, one being a black man, one being a black woman, and one being someone under 18.
Ooh, that's good.
Right. But we'll just say, who's somebody that you're really looking forward or really hoping to interview moving forward?
Yes, I will still take the 5-piece.
Oh man.
So President Joe Biden.
Okay.
I just feel a little bad about how he was pushed out, but I understand why he made the decision that he did. And the party has just been galvanized since then. And you're talking about a man who his entire career has been public service, some type of elected office. Yeah. And it just felt kind of anticlimactic to go out this way. So I'm sure he's going to do some type of final sit down interview. Would love for that to be me. President Joe Biden, you're officially invited to come to reporter Randi Richardson. I would also say Christine Baranski. Okay. So what you may not know about me is I love theater. I love plays. She is huge on Broadway. She doesn't even have a play right now, but back in the day, that was her cut. She's also in several shows that I like. So The Good Wife and also, The Gilded Age. And she just has so many quippy lines. I need to know where is this coming from? Is there any Christine in these very sharp characters?
Right. But even if there is even if it's all just her delivery, I mean, genius. So yeah.
Yes, and some of her facial expressions, I'm thinking, do you practice micro facial expressions in the mirror? Because it's easy to, obviously be happy or obviously be mad, but it's like the little innuendos that take the skill. So great. Those 2. I also want to interview Tyler Perry.
Uh-huh.
About his career milestones, about all the things. He's often criticized for having the same plot in every movie.
I personally criticize him for a lot, but we can start there. We can start there.
Okay, what are your critiques? There's a lot.
I I me and my disdain of Tyler Perry has gone back and forth over the years. I think at one point I felt really, really strongly about him making a bajillion dollars off caricatures of black people and blackness, and I found it to be disrespectful. But
Yeah.
then, um, and there's just bad wigs and awful writing and terrible acting.
LOL to bad
It's
wigs.
just bad. It's bad. It's
No,
terrible.
they are objectively horrible. That is true.
Yeah, it's not good. But
Yeah.
but I did not give Tyler Perry credit until Kenya Barris, who I do like, and I know a lot of people do not like Kenya Barris, but I'm a huge fan because he gave me Blackish, and
Mm.
Dre on Blackish is for me what Bill Cosby was on
Mm.
television for a lot of people, black dad,
Yeah.
representation on TV, black family. So like,
Yeah.
um, please don't put me in a Bill Cosby argument. I'm not saying nothing about Bill Cosby. I'm just saying like the
Yeah.
character, the black dad on TV. Um,
Yes.
in his show, with like a Black AF that he had on Netflix, which was pretty much Blackish, but it was all him, all self-centered, and there was a lot of cursing in it. There was one episode in particular where Tyler Perry was featured in it, and Tyler
Oh.
Perry was like Tyler Perry as himself, as Tyler Perry speaking to Kenya Barris as himself, and like what he was saying was why he was explaining how he never got recognition from like the Oscars or the Golden Globes or any of that, and he was like, I don't care about none of that. I'm making this content for my people. I'm making content that people love, and when I do that, I'm pure at heart and I believe in myself and my people love it, and that's why I'm doing it, and I'm going to keep doing it. And I was like, you know
Mm.
what, respect to that man, because
Yeah.
he, to be disrespected by, to be judged and to be disrespected sucks. And I judge him, and I would say I also disrespect him in his content. But look, he believes in what he's doing, and he is helping people get jobs. So maybe I'll forgive him for the bad wigs. I'm still not watching it because I think it's mostly garbage. I'm still not watching it. But at
No,
least in that moment, he won me over for 5 good minutes.
yeah, no, I definitely share your critiques. And the thing is, I know he can do another Medea's Family Reunion or another Diary of a Mad Black Woman. I'm more so like, what happened to that quality compared to Divorcing the Black? It just is not even close. So I just wish for Diary of a Mad Black Woman, Tyler, to resurface. We're all here. And I think, I once thought the same argument about the caricatures, and
Mhm.
then I would be talking to people in my family, and they would tell me similar stories that happened to them or their cousins, and I'm like, oh wow, that sounds like a Tyler Perry movie. So I hate to say it, some of that stuff is very real life, which is why he does it. I think it's just the repeated, consistent, like really hammering it down when he can move on to something else. Kind of like we were talking earlier, joy and justice. Where
Yeah.
is where is the balance?
I would like to see this man with $1 billion and pretty much he could do anything. I would like to
Right.
see him take a step forward. I
Yes,
would like to
exactly.
see something you could afford to take a loss in the box office, which is what a good movie typically does, like a really, really great like Oscar film typically.
Yes.
Excuse me. You could afford to make something great. Great directors and writers, and you could collaborate and give us something absolutely fantastic if you wanted
Yeah. And
to.
I can't overstate what he's done, just his presence for the community, like
Yeah,
buying a former Confederate base,
yeah,
creating all of these jobs, as you said. So hats off to him. He really talk about pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. He did
right,
that for real. And I don't think that's talked about enough
yeah.
because, all this other stuff. So yes, him, and then Kimberly Crenshaw.
Hmm.
She has been on my list for a long time. It's incredible how one person came up with two of perhaps the most controversial frameworks in modern history:
Yeah,
critical race theory and intersectionality.
right.
And she's given a lot of interviews, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here. But I'm like, how do you create such tentpole models
Mhm.
that didn't exist when you set out to create them? Like, what type of critical thinking are you doing? Because I want some of that. Inventing something, a concept, please rub off on me.
Right.
And then finally, someone under 18. Gee, that's a tough one. Hmm.
You'll find one. You don't have to be moved by the kids just yet.
I'm like, ooh, under 18. That's a tough one.
You don't have to be moved by the kids just yet. I think
Maybe that's it. I could do under 25.
under 25.
Yes. Angel Reese. Don't even
Oh
have to
man.
think about it.
Yeah, man.
I'm hoping to get her on the show sometime this season, so we'll see.
Good. I mean, I certainly is doable. I was going through some of your content. Who did I see you do interviews with? That was sports related specifically. I took a screenshot on my phone because I wanted to bring it up. But then again, I didn't go through notes. I wanted to go through all this through memory. Oh,
It's okay.
I had it. I had
Let me
it.
see. I interviewed Sue Bird,
Mm,
Sydney McLaughlin Lavroni, Nneka and Chinea Agumake, Caitlin Clark, Asar
Caitlin
Thompson.
Clark, but no Angel Reese, huh?
Black card
Mm.
revoked.
No, I when the Chicago Sky were here in July, I went to go see this guy
What?
play.
I was at that game.
Were you?
I
I mean,
was.
yeah, Angel eight at the time. Angel Reese still had the double streak going,
Yes, she
and it was in
did.
jeopardy because she went down in the third. I had my Reese's Pieces T-shirt on before the brand announcement came
Announcement.
out like this week. I was like, man,
Wow.
one, I was like, Jonquel Jones is bullying her, and I hate watching
It was
it.
hard to watch.
I
At a certain point, it was hard to watch.
Jonquel Jones was like, I ain't trying to hear none of that you talking. I don't care about Bayou Barbie. I don't care about none of that. This is Brooklyn. I don't care about none of it. It was tough. And I mean they lost, if my memory serves me correct. But the Liberty's really good.
Yeah, the
But
Liberty's really good. They did win.
I just need Angel Reese to find a 3-point shot. If she can find that, then she won't have to bang as much. And because
Yeah.
I don't think she, I mean, she
See,
gets
that's
the
the thing
rebound.
though. I think she likes to bang. I think she likes, I'm about to post you up and score over you and won.
Yeah,
There's
but I
something
just,
like a chip on her shoulder, you
but look,
know?
Twitter talks about it a lot. Her field goal percentage. Twitter talks about her
Okay.
field goal percentage all the time, right? Do you think that's gonna get better? It's like, because like, how many,
Yeah.
4 for 14 games is she gonna have?
I hear you. I do. I think anything outside of the paint
Mm-hmm.
is the name of the game these days. You have to be able to shoot the two, the long two, the three. And I think the expectation for forwards and post players to do that
Mm-hmm.
is less than like a guard to be able to do that. But
Right.
still important because we're, in an era of basketball where everyone should be able to play every position.
Right.
I do think it's going to get better. I'll say for this to be her rookie season, and she started playing right after her collegiate season ended,
Yeah.
she had no break. Like maybe her
That's
legs are just tired.
that's
The
true.
Olympic break definitely helped her, and
Yeah.
she just came back looking a little bit more refreshed.
Good.
But in general, like 4 for 14, I don't think that's her peak. That's not her
She's
ceiling.
not her peak. Look, she's had great games. Look, like I said, I got the Reese's Pieces T-shirt. I'm on the bandwagon. I'm supporting her. I'm riding with her. I like her energy. I like her swag. I like what she does for the game. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm a
But
fan too.
I was on that Angel Reese Rookie of the Year. I was waving the flag for it, Angel Reese Rookie of the Year. But there is a dog who plays for the Indiana Fever, and it there there is a dog, a absolute animal who plays for the Indiana Fever and is undeniably good. And if I feel like if I say negative things about her, I'm just hating at this point because she is a dog. She She look. She is. She just is. She just is.
She is. I don't disagree. I do feel like in general we overlook post players. So if it's between a guard and a post player,
That's
like
true.
the guard is just the sexier position. You get to do
Yeah.
all the flashy flash and the crossovers and breaking ankles and all of that.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if it went to Caitlin.
Yeah. I mean, I think it
I'm
has.
not saying that's what I want, but
Caitlin is looking like elite guard in the league right now. And I mean,
she
and there are, I mean, obviously she's not putting up stats as good as uh Agumbawale. She's not putting up stats as good as her. But I mean,
my thing with Caitlin is I'm gonna need to see less turnovers.
yeah. But I mean, she's just a what is it? A high, what is it called? I don't know, like high volume, just ball usage. She's really literally running the whole offense through her. Like I don't even know
Mhm.
who else touches the ball
You're
unless
saying she
she's
has the
giving her.
ball more, so therefore
Yeah,
she has more
she gives
turnovers.
the ball
Interesting.
for she she out there being superwoman. All good though. Look, she a dog. I don't know.
If we could just get them under 10, she had several games where she had 10, right?
Yeah, but I
So,
think we talk about her game growing. Like she's she's gonna be in GOAT conversations.
oh no, she's definitely good. Rookie of the year will be interesting. I do think it's gonna come down to them two, which they're so often pitted against each other. It's really a shame, but
Good. It's good for the game. We love
I was
it.
about to say both of their
It's good for the
responses are
game.
consistently, "Oh, I'm willing to do anything to grow the game." Blah
Good for
blah
the game.
blah. I'm like, well, y'all grown the game,
Good
honey,
for the game. We love it.
exponentially.
Good for the game. We love it. And then you got Asia who just balling on everybody.
Yo, I
You got
thought she was gonna dunk at the Olympics. I was like, Asia.
balling on everybody. It's but yeah, look, I so admittedly, I was not watching the WNBA as much. What
Oh,
I wasn't. What I was watching was college basketball. But for some reason, I like college sports better. I prefer men's college basketball to the NBA anyway.
yeah, same.
Um, and I
Less
ended up
sloppy.
following the UConn girls. So when Paige comes out number one overall next season, I'm getting a jersey. It's lit. I can't wait.
You getting a jersey, you gonna get a blonde ponytail to match.
Not, oh, that's doing a lot, but I mean, gotta rock with anybody out of UConn. But was that it? No, I have one more question before I did this, and it was going off the who you wanted to interview question.
I'm just talking your ear off. Don't mind
No,
me.
we good, we good, we good, we good. All right, so last question for real, and then so I asked you who you wanted to meet. I asked you about your own perspective. We've talked about multiple seasons of Reported with Randi Richardson, and let's talk about this season in particular, the launching of this season in relation to November.
Ah, mm-hmm.
Tell me the impact you'd like to have for the viewer in relation to what is the most important election of our lifetime.
Yes, I think every 4 years we've heard this is the most important election of your lifetime. I will
Yeah.
not be using language like that, not to take away from the urgency of this election, but I
Mhm.
think after so long, people become deaf to that type of inflammatory language. So my goal is to interview voters, to interview elected officials. Congress breaks for its state work period, I think September 30th. So they're going to be in their districts canvassing. What is the
Mhm.
strategy? What are they saying to voters? How do you get someone in New York to vote with the same sense of urgency as someone in Michigan? Because they have two very different dynamics going on,
Yeah.
what's a guaranteed vote and what's more of a battleground state. And I think through those interviews, I'm hoping to paint a picture of what are the most important issues to voters right now. What do elected officials think are the most important issues? And you'd be surprised how often those two are not the same thing. So I'm hoping to provide both of their answers. And like I said, if Joe Biden wants to come on my show, it won't be
Yeah.
a no.
Right.
Far-fetched, I
Right.
know. And I think leading up to the election, I have a couple of big interviews planned. So stay tuned for that.
No,
Yes.
no, no, you're not tipping off anything? No. No,
Ooh,
okay, all right. I had to ask while we're
stay
here.
tuned. Yes. And also being able to talk to battleground voters in Philadelphia because it's so near to me in New York, going to Central Park and interviewing people. I think the basis of my election coverage will be interviewing voters. And sometimes I think in the analysis on like a CNN or MSNBC, these are experts talking back and forth to each other. And sometimes the voter is removed entirely. And my approach is going to be all you're going to hear is from the voter. I may have a little intro, blah, blah, blah. But I think when we're talking about voting trends, what's important to people, what is this election going to come down to, I would prefer to just go directly to the source, which may include an expert, may include an elected official, but likely would just include voters to know what they're thinking. So definitely that. I'm also hoping to have a little bit of fun with it. I'm a road trip girl,
Mhm.
so I haven't figured out the logistics, but perhaps I can find a way to like get some road trip something coverage while also doing this.
Yeah.
And then, it's funny, my show, because I was a trending reporter at today.com, I covered a little bit of everything. And so that scope I have very much carried over to this show. So there'll be politics, there'll be entertainment, there'll be sports, there'll be news, there'll be culture. And so I'm so excited for all of these things that I've been thinking of and vision boarding and plotting to
Mhm.
come together, and for it to not be underground anymore, but to really grow into what is hopefully a tree bearing fruit. And the other day I was talking to someone, just like a very surface level conversation about the show, and she said, "Okay, well, let me know if you need an intern. I would love to intern with you." I'm like,
I
I
was
hope
just
I
about
get
to
big
say, let me
enough.
know if you need a producer because what we taking this to the top. I mean, I'm all for it.
Are you really? I actually really could use some help. It's a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, no, seriously.
But when she offered to intern, I'm like, I hope I grow it so it's big enough where I actually need an intern. And I'm like, already as I'm doing stuff, I'm thinking, wow, Randy, this is actually a lot. Um, but I don't even want to say but because, that kind of undercuts the previous sentence. It is a lot. And I'm really grateful to be in a position in my career where I can pour myself into this. It's one thing if, you're passionate about something and you just kind of half-heartedly do it. It doesn't work out. It's like, okay, well, I didn't really try. But in this case, it's like all of Randi Richardson is going into Reported with Randi Richardson.
Mhm.
It is 10 toes down, all hands on deck, all of that. And it's just been a joy. It's been a joy, even in the planning stages and whatnot. So I will be hitting you up, taking you up on that offer. Thank you in advance.
Oh, look, you're
And
welcome. You're welcome. And seriously, look, this journey, this season, we need it. We're ready, and we can't wait for it.
oh, Malcolm, you know how to interview somebody. I hope to have you back at the end of, I don't know, maybe after the election, a little 8-week, 10-week recap of what the show is up to now.
Yeah. Oh, look, I'll be around. Reporter with Randi Richardson is back, and we're all excited about it, and we can't wait for what's in store for this season. It's back September 10th on YouTube. Um, you know where to find her on YouTube, Instagram, all of it.
Reporter with Randi Richardson. Same thing everywhere. Yep.